What's up, Soul Family? Coming at you with another collective reading. This one's gonna be about Mountain, major challenge to overcome. If you're interested in a one-on-one reading, you can do so by directly messaging me at the link in the bio. The first reading is 35 for the first 20 minutes, and you can ask whatever questions you want, or I can pull and see what comes out. That being said, I'm gonna pull a couple more tea leaves. We're gonna see, I guess, where the challenge is, and then we're gonna go from there. I'll pull one more. So we have wishbone. So I guess something that we wanted will not be granted. Or broken wishbone. Broken wishbone. A wish we wanted will not be granted. Bowl with plenty of material things. And then last but not least, we have cracked cup with dissatisfaction with life. Okay, so there's something that you're wanting that's not going to happen the way that you're wanting it to. And I guess it's going to present itself as a challenge. So let's see what area that's in. So maybe this is in some aspect regarding like your spirituality. The Judgment card a lot of times makes me think of like the aspect of us having to connect to like a higher power or the divinity or something like that, and us having to maybe trust the universe. So many times whenever something like we want something, sometimes we get redirected and we're not always necessarily told why. And I am the first person to get very annoyed with this, but the way that it's been explained to me, it's kind of like in The Matrix. There's that one scene like where Neo went to the Oracle, and because the Oracle said, "Don't worry about the vase," it then made Neo kind of like look around, and then he ended up breaking the vase. And sometimes we end up having to, it's like the way that we go through certain things, it's because it will then cause a certain response that wouldn't probably have happened otherwise. And that response could even be on an energetic level. So it's a lot of times important to try our best to be mindful that sometimes, even though it's not always fun or easy, we might be getting redirected if something isn't working out the way that we're intending on. And it doesn't always seem like that in the moment. And trust me, I promise, like that shit can be very annoying. And then the golden apple of discord. Exactly. So then sometimes like something can seem like a blessing, but then it's actually a curse. It's like that's exactly the entire premise of the golden apple of discord. Sometimes like we can be, and there's been times like where, for instance, there's so many times like where somebody might be pretty like I think there's a couple things that came to my mind. There is once where this lady said that she didn't get a job that she wanted, and then a couple weeks or months or however many days later, the place got shot up. Like, and then the other instance I think of was the other day I was running late for a meeting. I was stressed the fuck out about it. Like I was like so frustrated. I had to spend extra money and to reschedule it, and I was just like, ugh. But it turns out that because of the fact that I ended up missing that meeting, I ended up getting to reschedule with somebody who ended up benefiting me a lot more than had I initially went with what the person that I was scheduled with to begin with. So there's so many times like where something might seem like it's a good thing and it's not, and vice versa. Something might seem like it's a bad thing and it really isn't. So it's always important to keep that in mind. And then we have the Three of Cups. So this makes me think like we really have to do our best to, and I know this sounds so counterintuitive, go out, have fun, and enjoy things. Like, even if it's a little bit more on the superficial, like, not necessarily like deeper connections, sometimes just going out and just having fun is not a bad thing. You don't always have to necessarily build like super deep one-on-one bonds. Sometimes you can just go out, party, have a drink, dance, and just enjoy the vibes, and there's nothing wrong with that. Especially if you are stuck in the energy of something being really disappointing or challenging and frustrating. Sometimes the best thing we can do is create distance from that by simply enjoying ourselves and intentionally putting our focus to the act of not being stuck in just stewing in it pretty much. You know, the Magician makes me feel like you're somebody who has everything that you need. Like, you have all the tools needed. Like, whatever you are manifesting, it's like, just because it doesn't come in one form, it doesn't mean that's not going to come in another. For the longest time, I wanted to go to school for psychology, but now I do readings. I understand, like, I'm not a psychologist, but at the same time, the things that I do are somewhat adjacent as far as being able to connect to another person one-on-one, hearing, like, where they are in their experience, and then from there, connecting to them and maybe seeing like what their best next move is based off of whatever I see in front of me. So sometimes the things that we get come in very unconventional ways, and we're not always aware of how it might come in, and we might again want it to be one way, but it doesn't necessarily mean that just because it didn't come in one way that our manifestation isn't coming in. Sometimes this is like the most direct and fastest path to getting what we want, even if it doesn't feel like it in the moment. Then we're going to keep this one kind of brief. So we have the King of Wands. So funny enough, before, I think earlier, like when I was shuffling before the camera started, the Queen of Wands fell out. So the King of Wands makes me feel like it's the energy of, sorry, I shuffled it in there. It's the energy of somebody who has a vision, somebody who's working hard, somebody who's determined, and somebody who has like the it's like the willpower to manifest what they want. The King of Wands with the Magician both make me feel like you are birthing something, and you're like hammering down whatever that vision is down into creation and down to this physical realm. And sometimes it's not always an easy task, but I think it is sometimes a process. And I think that is where you are. So it's like continue to trust, continue to take action, continue to focus on your vision, focus on like the distance, and take action towards what you want. And that being said, peace and blessings, you guys, and I hope you guys have an amazing night.